Right, now welcome back to the channel. So these are my top 5 takeaways for the Monaco Grand Prix. Now I guess firstly we'll just put a little bit of context into what happened this weekend. Obviously it was a very wet race, or started off as a very wet race in Monaco after all the teams got surprisingly caught out by rain. And I don't know why they got caught out, because we knew back on Thursday, Friday there was a chance of rain, but they all got caught out nonetheless. And it was a wet start, a delayed wet start with a couple of formation laps, and eventually the race got starting 55 minutes an hour after the start was due. Then during the race, there was calls to be made in terms of the tyre strategy. Every car started on wets. It started behind the safety car, so there was no standing start. And as a result of that, we had a mixed grid in terms of the tyre strategy. They all started on wets, as you have to by the regulations when you're starting behind the safety car. But some teams changed them to inters very early. Some teams changed them to inters late. And some teams missed inters entirely and went straight on to slicks. And that caused a mix on the strategy. The race was then red flagged after Mick Schumacher had an incident in the car where he crashed the car essentially. And that caused a red flag. All the teams then started again behind the safety car, all on mixed between hard and medium slick compounds, where Perez eventually went on to win the race, followed by Carlos Sainz, followed by Max Verstappen in third, Charles Leclerc fourth, and George Russell in fifth. So in terms of the top 5 takeaways, very simple for me for the first one, and that is the future of the Monaco Grand Prix. The question I think has to be asked at some point is, what should the future of the Monaco Grand Prix be? Because what we had on Sunday, whilst there were some tense moments and the tyre strategy, because of the weather and purely because of the weather, threw up some mixed grids, there wasn't actually a single on the track overtake in the top 10. Not one overtake. It's a glorified formation lap in all but name. And for me as a fan watching it, I know there's the glitz and the glamour and the billionaires and the millionaires with their super yachts and so on. And you think, okay, it's a very glamorous occasion, as it is. And I get that. But from a racing perspective, from a fan watching a race, a Formula One race, it's really not a spectacle at all. It's very forgetful. Very forgetful. You watch the race and then that's it. It's gone into the past, banished until next year, because there's nothing to it. There's no real racing. Yes, again, they get it in terms of the speed and the skill of driving at 220 miles an hour through the tight streets of Monaco, but it's a race. Do we have to look at whether or not, okay, if you're going to keep the Monaco Grand Prix there, perhaps a race in its current format isn't the way forward? Perhaps you need a time trial session instead, and you base the results based on a time trial. The teams have 5 hours to go and run out their 77 laps in a certain, and that 77 laps is timed, perhaps. I don't know, but something needs to be looked into. So my first takeaway, very simple: the future of the Monaco Grand Prix has to be addressed, in my opinion. Takeaway number 2: Ferrari, quickest car, slowest pit wall. Need I say more? Ferrari have definitely had the fastest car all weekend by quite a bit, to be fair. A couple of attempts at least on the Red Bulls. And in terms of the things with Monaco, it's not so much about engine power and outright straight pace. It's car handling. The cars that handle well are the ones that are rewarded the most in a place like Monaco, especially in the wet conditions, because you're not able to be fully up to power, so to speak. It's a lot of good acceleration, but you're not really at a full top speed at all. It's a downforce circuit, and how good your handling is of that car is going to be. Those cars with really good handling are going to be better, and certainly Ferrari have got a good handling car. They were comfortably the quickest car all weekend, but tyre strategy, or strategy in terms of decision making for their tyres, particularly from the wets to the inters or the slicks, as the case may be in Carlos Sainz, they were slow to react. and Charles Leclerc lost out on, and not just a race for a podium, but the race win. He started on pole, and the reason that he didn't win that race was because when Red Bull made the correct decision to bring Perez in, as they did, and made a very quick decision, bring Perez in, put on the inters, the obvious thing, very doesn't need much thought. Leclerc should have pitted next lap, covered it off, same strategy, done. Leclerc wins the Grand Prix. So, takeaway number 2, Ferrari, quickest car, slowest pit wall. Takeaway number 3 is actually the Mercedes. And the Mercedes, for me, the takeaway number 3, Mercedes, not quick enough yet. I know after Spain, there was quite a lot of... there was a lot of feel-good, positive vibes about the Mercedes, that they'd really taken a step forward. And I think when you consider the fact they had a brand new engine, and therefore they had a lot of engine power and a lot of good, straight, outright speed, showed itself in a place like Barcelona. But the minute they went to Monaco, and you got the bouncy streets and the tight corners, and then it's more about the handling, as I said just a few minutes ago, the handling of the car. The Mercedes got found out, which it still has an issue with the handling of that Mercedes in certain races. Not as bad, granted, as it has been, but it's still, from a handling perspective, there's still work to do. So that's my takeaway number 3. Takeaway number 4, Daniel Ricciardo is under severe pressure. So he had, as we know, going into the race, for I think the first time that I can remember, Zach Brown had mentioned about the fact that that Ricciardo wasn't meeting the high expectations that McLaren have. We all know McLaren have high expectations; they're a massive team, and he said that that he wasn't quite meeting their expectations, and that they've been working a lot to try and resolve the issues. Daniel Ricciardo's not quite fitting in with that car. But then obviously he had his crash in practice, and then in qualifying was only able to get P13. And okay, some will say, well, the McLaren might not be the best car, but Lando Norris is pushing that car continuously, challenging for best of the rest. Out-qualified both the Mercedes this weekend, for example. Qualified 5th. Wasn't actually a million miles, by the way, off the group in front of him. It was only 2 or 3 tenths, I believe, off Max Verstappen. So, but then Ricciardo all the way back down there in 13th. So finishing behind Lando Norris is no shame, because Lando Norris is a terrific young driver, but he's finishing a long way back, well out of the rain. McLaren are looking at him thinking, if they are going to challenge for a 3rd place in the constructors, you need 2 drivers continuously going well into the points. At the moment, they only have 1, essentially. So takeaway number 4 is Lando Norris. Not even George Russell. What's going on? Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo is under severe pressure. Takeaway number 5, and this one's a fairly straightforward, easy. I think most will agree on this one as well, even if you don't agree on my 4 other takeaways. The new race directors are overly cautious. Very overly cautious. That needs to be addressed. We had a couple of weeks ago with the DRS not being open for long after the rain had stopped, and so on and so forth. And then this week, when they started the race, they could have started it when the start time was due. I know it was wet at the time, but this isn't junior karting, this is Formula 1, and it wasn't overly wet. In fact, it was 15-20 minutes later, after the race should have started, that the rain really started coming down. So they could have started the race earlier, and had they have done that, actually we may have managed to get within the 2-hour time limit. Also, did we need, particularly on the restart after the red flag, we started on slicks behind the safety car, and I'm just wondering whether or not actually that could have been a standing start, personally. So I do think there are, not just, like I said, not just today, but on other races as well, the race directors are perhaps being a tad overcautious. I'd like to know what you think though. Leave your thoughts about that in the comment section. And there you have it. That is my top 5 takeaways for the Monaco Grand Prix. I will be doing another live stream throughout the week. If you're not subscribed to the channel, it would be great if you could subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified when, 1, I put videos up like this, and 2, when we go live. Now, I want this Formula 1 fan zone, the F1 fan zone, to be the go-to channel for fans to have their say. I want to be opening up the lines and giving every person the opportunity to come on to a stream and have your say, whether it be about the race coming up, the race we've just had, or anything Formula 1 related. Come and have your say live on stream. So until the next time, until the next race, take care, and I'll see you all again soon.